Hello, and welcome to Forage Nexus. This is Marcelo Wallau, Forage Extension Specialist and Associate Program Leader for Extension with the University of Florida. Over the past year and a half, Bruno and I set out to explore the lives of the men and women who shape Forage research, extension, and teaching in the United States and beyond. Those trailblazers, honored as the giants of forage agriculture by the C6 Forages and Grazing Division of the Crop Science Society of America, have made a lasting contribution to the field. Supported partially by the Forages and Grazing Foundation, our project highlights the enduring legacies. We have interviewed 19 of those giants, or dear colleagues that spoke on behalf of those no longer with us. They did groundbreaking work in forage management, genetics, grazing, statistics, nutritive value, both in research, extension, and industry influence, among other areas, and they continue to inspire our work today. Moreover, they left a great legacy through the people that they trained. Several of us continue their work today and are here to share a little bit about the stories and messages from the giants of forage agriculture.
Dr. Dale Smith, shaped by early farm work and World War II service, conducted more than 30 years of research in crop management and physiology, laying groundbreaking work on carbohydrate accumulation and forage performance. His results continue to impact today based on solid science, always checking his results and trusting the data, as Dr. Jeff Volenak shared with us.
Simply said, check, think, and check again. So I think that was kind of the motto in the lab. Get on this and be thoughtful. I think the other things he would want you to do coming up through the system is to be nimble. He was nimble. He published in so many different journals on so many different topics, on so many different species. He really optimized or embraced being nimble. Be persistent. When things don't work, you can't measure carbohydrates the way you want. Be persistent and figure it out. There's a solution. And lastly, he was one that listened to the data. The anomalies are really important. Bird's foot trefoil is an anomaly. You manage it like alfalfa, you kill it. Listen to that. The data is speaking to you. And get after it.
Dr. Verne Marble, an icon of the alfalfa world, not just in California, but across the globe, helped change alfalfa production in many countries. His legacy continues through colleagues like Dr. Dan Putman, who discussed the importance of collaboration to excel in an area as broad as forage sciences.
He was always about practical solutions to problems, but still addressing real problems and forming those linkages where you can effectively address those problems. And I think ideally the land grant system is such where if you integrate from basic science to applied science to outreach and to impact on the farming community, that's where an extension specialist should really be in the latter part of that, with applied research of their own, but also with how that might impact the farming community and the profitability of crop production and the overall goals of the betterment of society in general. This idea of, we sort of give lip service to multidisciplinary types of approaches, but let's just talk about the things we've talked about today. We talked about insects, genetics, and plant breeding, all the way to forage quality and animal production. Now, Verne was not an expert in all these areas, but he put it all together. And the thing is that you have to have somebody who sees that whole continuum and able to find the experts in those different areas and put them together.
We work in systems, and systems are complex entities. Dr. Jerry Matches had always been a big picture thinker, and he always loved a challenge. He also always thought of how things are integrated into a system and how those systems can help our stakeholders. They can only be explored through strong collaborations. That's the way we can achieve great results and do work that's relevant for our society, as shared by Dr. Rob Kallenbach.
He was interested in the big problems, and the big problems in so many of the systems we work in are systems level. That is, he would tell me this, that even if I give a talk at a field day about alfalfa physiology, my audience in the room, the farmers in the room, the grazers in the room, the producers in the room, They're trying to figure out how to put that into a system. It has to fit into their system economically. It's got to fit into their system biologically. And even if I'm not talking about systems, they're thinking systems. And he wanted to get behind that. He wanted to understand what makes the system work? Is the work I'm doing in this part of the system, does it really contribute anything at all at the end of the day? Right? Is my research relevant? Not only relevant scientifically, but is it working on the key piece of what makes this thing go together? And part of what bothered him about that is that it was hard to know. He really was interested in it in forage livestock systems because there were so many pieces, right? And because there were so many pieces, he told me that he used to keep a piece of paper by his nightstand. And when he would have ideas in the middle of the night, he'd write them down. And he'd say the most impactful thing it is he raised the idea of working at the systems level and engaging a lot of people as well or better than anyone. Certainly a lot of people who've also worked in that space. And when you work in collaborative spaces, you can't just point to one person oftentimes if it's a great collaboration. But he was one of the first, at least, to see that the systems matter. The systems are complex. Collaboration is really important.
Dr. Robert Barnes is best known for his forage books, An Introduction to and the Science of Forage Agriculture. He was also a leader with the C6 division, but beyond that, he was a visionary. He was one of the pioneers of the use of near-infrared spectrometry to test for forage nutritive value, as shared with us by Dr. Jerry Nelson.
His goal was to be able to measure wheat quality. And so he was in the grain marketing business, and these wheat millers all over the country wanted to have a wheat that had a certain composition, and he could get the endosperm out of the wheat and grind it up and put it on a test, stick it in his machine, and you get the spectrum off it, and he could tell the protein and various components in wheat. With the wheat endosperm was white, you could make a thin layer of it and put it on a kind of like a slide and stick it in here, and it was really simple. And he can measure the wheat quality very accurately, the protein content. I mean, it'd be 13.2 or 13.4, and they knew what the wheat was going to be used for in their manufacturing processes and the breakfast foods and all these things. So in food science, it was really something. And this guy...
Dr. Jerry Mott grew up in a small farm in Nebraska and grew up through the Depression. That shaped his personality and work ethics. He was committed to improve the lives of the people he touched. And his work expanded not only through the United States, but abroad, as shared by Dr. Lynn Sollenberger, one of his former students and another of our giants of forage agriculture.
He was not content to strictly be limited to the U.S. agricultural system and agricultural context. He was a man of faith, and so I think that was a driver of his commitment on a broader international scale to being of service wherever he could be. His innate curiosity and interest in kind of exploring the globe, but then also a kind of a drive for humanitarian service really kind of pushed him to that international focus. And then once he tasted it, probably like a bear with honey, I mean, he just went for it at that point. Some of us tend to be fairly regional in our outlook, and that is our focus, but Mott was very national and international in his outlook, and I think that drove him to look for outlets for opportunities for impact, and so he clearly saw the national societies as a way to contribute to the discipline as well as expand kind of the reach of his footprint.
Dr. Glenn Burton, coming from rural Nebraska, moved to the ARS research station in Tifton in 1936, starting a 70-year research career with the USDA and as a consultant. He left a great legacy of transforming forage production in the southern U.S. with the development of multiple Bahia grass and Bermuda grass varieties. Globally, he is known for his work in millet, which helped move many people out of starvation, as shared by Dr. Joe Burton. What he had done in the selection by selecting for high yield, which was good, that he had taken all that carbon that was in the roots and rhizomes and had redistributed it to the leaves. Well, now, by the time he got out to 18, it wasn't quite as persistent as Pensacola. But he found that Tifton 9, that cycle, was just about the right mix of yield and persistence. And so that's why Tifton 9 was released. He knew farmers, which is really critical. He knew farmers, he knew himself, he knew what would fit. He also, and there's always a little bit of luck, there's always a little bit of luck that goes along with these things. And he was kind of lucky.
Drs. Don Ball, Gary Lacefield, and Carl Hovland are probably best known by their book, Southern Forages. But they're also the gentlemen of the South. Their work influenced many of our generation, and we still continue to use their resources in extension and teaching nowadays. Their work revolutionized the fescue belt when they studied fescue toxicosis and the inclusion of clovers to improve annual productivity and reduce the effect of tau fescue toxicosis. Drs. Ball and Lacefield joined me in person to share their legacy and talk about their beloved colleague, Dr. Carl Hovland. Dr. Ball emphasized that we're in the people business, and that philosophy drove his extension approach.
We're not in the cattle business. We're in the people business. And there is a lot of truth in that. We're all, whether we're in agriculture or not, you really mostly are in the people business. And if you've got to learn how to get along well with people and enjoy people, and that will help go a long way toward having a happy, successful career.
Things are so different now than it was when Don and I started, or even when Dennis started, with the technology that we have to work with. I marvel at how I was able to find all those meeting rooms over the years without GPS, and how I was able to do slides those years and not have the luxury of PowerPoint. So we've got a lot of tools at our disposal that we didn't have, but we've got a lot of challenges that we didn't have when we started. We weren't constantly bombarded with all the environmental issues and regulations that we tend to see today. So although it's different, we do have better technology. And I think one additional thing that I would point out is the importance of organizations that can impact you. And this organization, the American Forage and Grassland Council, has had a major impact on all three of our lives, as well as others. I think probably one of the most important things that I worked on in my career was in conjunction with Dr. Ball and Dr. Hovland, and that's the production of the book Southern Forages. That was a very important project that we worked on throughout our career, among other things. Like one of the things that's made a real impact in the tall fescue belt has been the book on the history of tall fescue in the U.S., and that was another very interesting, challenging, but rewarding project. We never expected this to really do what it did. Never expected it to have any interest much beyond the Southeast. However, it's used in more than 50 universities as either a text or a text supplement, been distributed to over 55 different countries and translated into a number of different languages.
Carl was big on interpersonal interaction. He realized that you get things done through working with other people. And by the way, if you work in extension primarily, which is what I did, you get to know a lot of people. You get to know a lot of county agents, other agency workers. You get to know farmers, and a lot of other people. And a benefit of that I think is not widely recognized except by people who work in extension, is that you work with these people, and to begin with, they are your clients, they are your contacts, and you work with them, and this is true of your colleagues at the university or in extension as well. After a while, they're no longer your client, they're your friend. And knowing those people in extension, people in research, farmers and others, including people internationally that you get to know, it enriches your life far more than you can really even express.
Many of these giants share a common background. Growing up on a farm, often through hard times, they came serendipitously to their jobs, but persisted. hard work, and figuring things out. Curiosity was the driver of innovation, and through collaborative work, they were able to really change the landscape of forage agriculture in the United States and the world. They understood that system matters, and people are part of the system. Their influence continues to live on through the students they formed, who carry their legacy for years to come.
Stay curious, respect the data, and invest in people. That formula powered the giants and will propel forward science for the decades to come.